Hello everybody, this is a little presentation on Node.js. And Node.js is a server-side technology we'll explore. And I have here in the code along, I have the references and not much else because it's kind of hard to do a bit-by-bit code along on it, or maybe byte-by-byte. So we'll start by going through these tabs and we'll take a look at each of these references. Okay, from good old Wikipedia. Node.js was written by Ryan Dahl in 2009. Take a look at him. He looks like a lot of the college kids here. Nice thing about if you are really successful as a developer or an IT person, you can dress in a t-shirt and you're perfectly okay. You never have to get dressed up. Interestingly enough, his journey started with him dropping out of a PhD for math. He decided that just wasn't for him. He wanted to try something new. He ended up in South America, and he's bounced around a couple of other places, but he's doing well for himself. Okay, I'd like to pop back here. There we go. I'll just this is what he says about Node.js. He says, I would say that Node stems primarily from trying to solve the upload progress bar program. As he explained it, that back then when you uploaded a file, your program just looked at you because it had no way of doing anything else until the upload was done. And I remember those days, and I remember that you sit there and is it going to upload or isn't it not? Because a lot of times it would just die in the middle of the upload. Okay, some of the background, it said this is actually on the Node site itself. I like to have primary sources. And it says it's similar to design and influenced by systems like Ruby's Event Machine and Python's Twisted. Well, if you listen to Ryan's bio, he worked on Ruby and he worked with Python, so he knew how both of those worked. As a matter of fact, they were having a problem with Ruby running on a server, and they found out it wasn't the Ruby on Rails, it was Ruby itself, that there was just so far they were going to do with the architecture we had. Okay, popping over. Okay, this is the video I saw where Ryan was explaining his own invention and some of the background, and it's a really good video. It's kind of long, and I'll warn you that some of the language is not safe for work. So keep that in mind when you watch it. Okay, well, I'll actually get to what our presentation is. This is the old presentation. I will probably summarize it and combine it. But anyway, concurrency is the idea that you have more than one user, and how do you keep all of those happy? And I remember when I first started with databases, that the database I was on was just starting to be multi-user, and I would actually have to, every time I did a command, I had to decide whether I wanted to lock a record, it was a database program, or the whole file. Sometimes I forgot to unlock it, and I got angry calls that this doesn't work, because most of the time it would work when I was trying it by myself, but it wouldn't work when 2 or 3 people were trying to hit the same record. Okay, threading. The idea of threading is you have a separate list of commands that's executing, and this is a traditional way that you do with concurrent programs. And it's susceptible to race conditions. That's something important to you because that's something that can be used for hacking. And also deadlocking, where I can't do this till you do that, and I can't do this until you do that, and the two threads just deadlock. Okay, event loop. I'll show you a kind of a visual of that, so I won't get into that too much. But many user interface applications have an event loop. Basic, not Visual Basic, but Basic actually had an event loop. It was about 500 pages long. Okay, the idea of an event loop is kind of like what you're doing in a restaurant. Okay, when the waiter waitress, then they take your order, they don't wait for it to cook, and sometimes that's fortunate because it could be a while. But they drop off the order and they go back and get another order, and they just can continue doing what they're doing. They'll come by and freshen your drink for you, ask if you want any dessert and all that. Meanwhile, the cooks are cooking and doing what they got to do. Okay, there's an event loop running in JavaScript on your machine, and there's also running in a server if you have a Node.js server. Okay, the event loop, there's this saying that says any Sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable by magic. Well, it's not magic once you understand what it is. And the idea is I'm trying to give you just a little bit of a deeper understanding, because in code, you can turn the code out and it works, and you have no idea how it works, but you could go move it to another level by understanding what's going on behind the scenes, and sometimes that helps you troubleshoot, like about 3 o'clock in the morning when everything dies. Okay, here's a visual of an event loop, and this event loop is on the server. Somebody wanted to change a color on something. It goes into a message queue, which is just a list of messages. It's kind of like a waiting list for a restaurant. And the server says next, so it dequeues it, looks, and they initialize it. Then they run run it, and then they send it back to the user. And this event loop just keeps on going. And what happens is then when the DQ and NQ pull them off or pull them on, do not have to wait for each other. Okay, we've got some additional references, but I'm done with that. Okay, to download it, you go to download node, and there you go. And it tells you which one you want. Make sure you got the right operating system. Okay, this is your documentation for Node. Tells you far more than you'll need for this particular course, but it's good to know where it is. This is the W3 Schools JavaScript tutorial. This is one of the best tutorials for JavaScript that you can find. Okay, let's move to a demonstration really quick. Okay, what I have here is I actually have the lab, and I'll go ahead and run it. I run it by node, not note, node, the name of file. Let's see, make sure I get it right. Okay, and let's see what happens. Okay, it says the server's running this. It said, do you want to open the browser? I most certainly do. Okay, enter your name. Oh, sure. There we go. And it says, I don't know why it says plus O'Neill, but anyway, that's what it did. Okay, that's a preview of the Node.js. It's a preview of your lab, and feel free. Let's go back here a minute. Let me pick up on something. Let's see, where did I have that? Okay, here on the Node.js, when it says about Node.js, you see this bit of script here. Feel free to use this as a start for your project. You will have to figure out how to have it. It will tell you how to do hello world. You just need to figure out how to have it take the input, put the input together, and put it out. Anyway, that's Node.js. I hope that helps, and I'll be looking forward to your assignments.